Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, True Crime Matters, where we talk about and analyze everything true crime. I am Tara Marie, and it is so nice to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. So there's rapid fire updates in the Menendez Brothers case lately, so I just wanted to make sure I stay on top of all of the updates as they happen as quickly as possible. So first of all, for those who don't know anything about the Menendez brothers, I did a 2-part deep dive a while back, and I'll link that down below. But for those completely new to the Menendez brothers case, the Menendez brothers are serving a life sentence for the murder of both of their parents, Mary Louise, known as Kitty, and José Menendez, in the summer of 1989. At the time, many people believed not only were the boys lying about the abuse, but even if there was abuse going on, the boys had every opportunity to escape. The prosecution argued that the boys killed their parents to inherit their fortune, and that it was just a crime of greed. But the defense explained what had really happened was the brothers had threatened to expose their wealthy top-level executive father as a child molester. All of that said, it took 2 trials to convict the brothers of their parents' murders. The first trial, 2 separate juries were deadlocked because all the women believed the brothers were acting in self-defense, while all the men believed it was either a crime of greed or that the brothers could have easily just walked away. For the second trial, the judge ruled the abuse evidence was inadmissible and that manslaughter was not an option for the jury to consider. In the end, the boys were convicted of first-degree murder without the possibility of parole. Now, 35 years later, attorneys for the brothers have filed a habeas corpus due to newly discovered evidence in the case. One is a recently discovered letter that Erik had apparently written his cousin Andy in 1988 when Erik was 18 years old, which would have been just a year prior to the killings, which hinted that the SA from his father was still happening. The other new evidence is from a former RCA boy band member named Roy Rosello. He claims that José Menendez slipped him substances and raped him when José was an RCA executive working with the band. Now, just days ago, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascón just held a press conference essentially saying his office has been inundated with calls about the case due to the new Netflix series called Monster, the Erik and Lyle Menendez story, and people are calling on him, asking for the brothers to be released. So the DA said that he has a resentencing hearing on the calendar now for November 26, which many people are now saying looks very hopeful for the brothers. Now, meanwhile, shortly after that, Kim Kardashian published an essay about the brothers. Have you guys seen this? So I found the letter, and I'm going to read it to you all. Now, for those of you who may not know, Kim actually has very deep roots in law. Now, first of all, Kim's family was very close with O.J. Simpson's family growing up. In fact, they were so close they even vacationed together. Then, when O.J. was arrested for the murder of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, Kim's father Robert served as O.J.'s defense attorney during his 1995 murder trial. Sadly, Kim's father passed away from cancer in 2003 when he was just 59 years old. But Kim has always remained so interested in criminal rights that she began to pursue a career in law since 2018. She enrolled in a 4-year apprenticeship with a San Francisco law firm to focus on criminal justice reform, and she passed the baby bar exam in 2021, which is not easy to do. And in 2020, a documentary was released called Kim Kardashian West: The Justice Project, which focused on Kim's advocacy. The documentary shows Kim's care for reform based on the emotional nature of individual cases. Now, more recently, Kim has taken the cause to the White House multiple times. She visited the White House for a roundtable on criminal justice reforms with Vice President Kamala Harris. Kim previously expressed outspoken support for some of former President Trump's reforms, praising them during the 2020 election campaign, but Kim has stated She said she doesn't view prison reform as political. Now, all of that said, I wanted to read Kim's essay about the Menendez brothers to see what you think. So Kim wrote, "We are all products of our experiences. They shape who we were, who we are, and who we will be. Physiologically and psychologically, time changes us, and I doubt anyone would claim to be the same person they were at 18. I know I'm not. You think you know the story of Lyle and Erik Menendez. I certainly thought I did. In 1989, the brothers, aged 21 and 18, respectively, viciously shot and killed their parents in their Beverly Hills home. In 1996, after 2 trials, they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As is often the case, the story is much more complex than it appears on the surface. Both brothers said they had been sexually, physically, and emotionally abused for years by their parents. According to Lyle, the abuse started when he was just 6 years old, and Erik said he was raped by his father for more than a decade. Following years of abuse and a real fear for their lives, Erik and Lyle chose what they thought at the time was their only way out, an unimaginable way to escape their living nightmare. Their first trial was heard before 2 separate juries, one for each brother. Their abuse claims formed the foundation of their defense, with family members testifying on their behalf. After hearing this new evidence, over half of the 24 jurors voted not guilty on the murder charges, resulting in hopelessly deadlocked juries and mistrials, widely seen as a blow to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. Soon, the Menendez brothers' case would continue to play out amid another high-profile murder case prosecuted by the same DA's office. More than 4 months after the Menendez trials, O.J. Simpson was charged with the murders of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. Then, 8 days after Simpson's acquittal, opening arguments began in Erik and Lyle's second trial. However, this time, the judge had changed the rules. Both brothers were tried together before a single jury. Much of the abuse evidence was deemed inadmissible, and manslaughter was no longer an option. Some witnesses from the first trial were barred from testifying about the alleged abuse, depriving the jurors of crucial evidence. The prosecutor, having successfully argued to exclude the abuse testimony, mocked the brothers' defense during his closing arguments for not producing any evidence of abuse. Their lawyer has since said the judge's rulings essentially acted as a, quote, directed verdict. And so the brothers were convicted. They were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole and have remained incarcerated for almost 35 years. The only way out of prison now is death. The first trial was televised for all to see, and Erik and Lyle's case became entertainment for the nation. Their suffering and stories of abuse ridiculed in skits on Saturday Night Live. The media turned the brothers into monsters and sensationalized eye candy. 2 arrogant rich kids from Beverly Hills who had killed their parents out of greed. There was no room for empathy, let alone sympathy. Erik and Lyle had no chance of a fair trial against this backdrop. Back then, there were limited resources for victims of sexual abuse, particularly for boys. There were virtually no systems in place to support survivors, and public awareness of the trauma of male sexual abuse was minimal, often clouded by preconceived judgments and homophobia. Can anyone honestly deny that the justice system would have treated the Menendez sisters more leniently? Despite overwhelming family testimony acknowledging the abuse Erik and Lyle suffered, the public remained skeptical. Robbed of their childhoods by their parents, then robbed of any chance of freedom by a criminal justice system eager to punish them without considering the context or understanding the why, and without caring about whether the punishment fit the crime. Erik and Lyle were condemned before the trial even began. According to Erik and Lyle, they were physically, sexually, and emotionally abused by their parents since childhood, and their father repeatedly raped them when they were just little boys. Many people believe the crimes the brothers committed are unforgivable. But what about the decades of alleged abuse they suffered as children? I have spent time with Lyle and Erik. They are not monsters. They are kind, intelligent, and honest men. In prison, they both have exemplary disciplinary records. They have earned multiple college degrees, worked as caregivers for elderly incarcerated individuals in hospice, and even mentored in college programs, committed to giving back to others. When I visited the prison 3 weeks ago, one of the wardens told me he would feel comfortable having them as neighbors. 24 family members, including their parents' siblings, have released statements fully supporting Lyle and Erik and have respectfully requested that the justice system free them. The killings are not excusable. I want to make that clear. Nor is their behavior before, during, or after the crime. But we should not deny who they are today in their 50s. The trial and punishment these brothers received were more befitting a serial killer than two individuals who endured years of sexual abuse by the very people they loved and trusted. I don't believe that spending their entire natural lives incarcerated was the right punishment for this complex case. Had this crime been committed and trialed today, I believe the outcome would have been dramatically different. I also strongly believe that they were denied a fair second trial and that the exclusion of the crucial abuse evidence denied Erik and Lyle the opportunity to fully present their case, further undermining the fairness of their conviction. With their case back in the spotlight, and considering the revelation of a 1988 letter from Erik to his cousin describing the abuse, my hope is that Erik and Lyle Menendez's life sentences are reconsidered. We owe it to those little boys who lost their childhoods, who never had a chance to be heard, helped, or saved. Wow, I think that's a very powerful essay on the case. Now, obviously, since Kim works in this arena of criminal justice reform, of course she would feel it is important to write about this case, given the whole abuse angle. Now, as for my opinion on this, personally, I think it is Kim Kardashian's place to say something, to speak up as a criminal justice advocate who is studying law, to speak about, this case that she feels is very important. And honestly, at this point, I agree with Kim wholeheartedly. I have seen enough evidence from this case, especially from the original, televised trial, where I believe the claims of abuse are true. And I also share the sentiment of many others that if this had been two girls who had killed their parents because they were fearful that they would be killed for exposing their parents or their father as a child molester, manslaughter would have been an option for the jury and they would be released by now. But let me know what you all think. Do you think that it was Kim Kardashian's place as, a celebrity to be overstepping her bounds with this essay? Do you agree with her going to the White House to speak on criminal justice reforms? Do you agree overall that the brothers should be released? Let me know what you all think in the comments section down below. That is going to be it for me today. For those new to my channel, this has been True Crime Matters with Tara Marie. If you have gotten anything useful out of this video, please take a second to subscribe so we don't lose each other. It costs nothing and it would mean so much to me to have your support along the way. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Be careful out there.